mysterious, terrifying, and unimaginably powerful. These are 10 demons more powerful than Satan that you may have never heard of. From Angra Mainyu in Persian mythology, Tiamat, the mother of monsters of Babylon, to Cthulhu and Azathoth in the Lovecraftian universe, each entity possesses power beyond imagination, threatening not just human souls, but the very order of the cosmos. In this video, Tales Mythology takes you through the darkest legends of all time, unraveling their origins, powers, and the lessons humanity can learn from the shadows. Discover the chilling truth behind these demons, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more haunting and mysterious tales from history and myth. Most people, when asked about the ultimate symbol of evil, will give the same answer: the devil, Lucifer, Satan, the adversary. From medieval paintings to Hollywood horror, the devil has been crowned as the supreme villain of history, literature, and religion. But here's the twist: what if he's not the worst thing out there? What if, across ancient myths, forgotten scriptures, and even modern horror fiction, there lurk beings or forces far darker, far older, far more dangerous entities that don't just tempt your soul or whisper sign into your ear, but shape the very chaos of existence itself? Some so immense they predate creation, some so alien they see humanity as nothing more than dust motes in a sunbeam, some so inevitable they cannot be fought, only endured. This is not about the devil you think you know. This is about 10 powers from the depths of myth and imagination, each with a claim to be greater than Satan himself. Why this journey matters. Before we dive in, let's be clear. This is not a sermon, nor a horror story alone. This is a map through humanity's oldest fears, biggest questions, and strangest stories. Because myths are more than entertainment. They are humanity talking to itself across centuries, across continents, across the dark forests of the human mind. When the ancient Persians spoke of Angra Mainyu, when the Babylonians told of Tiamat, when the Bible thundered about Leviathan, or modern writers gave us Cthulhu, these weren't just monsters. They were ideas. Ideas about where evil comes from, why chaos exists, and whether the universe itself cares if we live or die. So today, we're not just counting demons. We're counting paradigms of power, 10 forces, characters, or concepts that make the devil look small. The devil we think we know. To see why these other beings matter, we have to first look at the devil himself. In popular imagination books, movies, cartoons, Satan is the ultimate bad guy. A horned ruler of hell, sitting on a throne of fire, commanding armies of demons, battling God for souls like some cosmic chessboard. But here's the thing, that version of the devil is mostly medieval and modern invention. In the earliest biblical texts, Satan isn't even close to God's equal. He shows up in the book of Job not as a rival god, but as a kind of prosecutor in God's court, testing human faith. Only later, under influences from Persian dualism and apocalyptic literature, does Satan morph into a cosmic enemy of God. So the devil as king of evil, the supreme villain, that's partly Christianity absorbing older mythologies and giving them a new face. And that's why, when we look beyond Christian tradition, we start finding beings bigger, older, stranger than anything Satan ever was, defining more powerful. But wait, what does more powerful than the devil even mean? Older. Many of these beings existed in myth long before Christianity. Bigger. Some are literally the size of universes. Scarier. Some don't even notice humanity, and that indifference is terrifying. Morally worse. Some aren't even evil in a human sense. They're cosmic. They simply are. So we'll use a few measures. Cosmic scope. Does this being shape reality itself? Primordial status. Were they here before order, before good and evil existed? Impact on humanity. Do they rule fear, chaos, or destiny itself? Defeatability. Can they even be stopped? Or are they inevitable? The devil tempts, deceives, maybe torments souls, but some of these other beings are reality's nightmares given shape. The road ahead. Who we'll meet. Over the next 5 scenes, we'll meet a Persian spirit of chaos, so strong he battles a creator god for the entire universe. A Mesopotamian sea dragon whose corpse becomes the world itself. A biblical monster who terrified prophets and poets alike. A cosmic entity from modern literature who could snuff out reality by waking up. A Norse giant who burns the world down so it can be reborn. And abstract forces like the outer darkness or the abyss-less beings than terrifying realities that swallow gods and mortals alike. Each will come with stories, analysis, and even some real-life parallels, times in history or a human experience when these myths felt disturbingly real. Setting the mood. Picture this as we start. A storm over an ancient ocean, lightning revealing shapes too big to name. A temple where priests chant to keep some sleeping thing from stirring. A medieval scribe copying warnings about Leviathan by candlelight. A 1920s writer in Providence dreaming of cities under the sea. All of them, across thousands of years, point to the same idea. There are things older and darker than the devil, and tonight, we meet them. Long before medieval Europe imagined the devil with horns and a tail, before Dante's Inferno or Milton's Paradise Lost, there was a figure born in the deserts of ancient Persia, Angra Mainyu, also called Ahriman, in the Zoroastrian tradition, one of the world's oldest monotheistic religions. Existence itself begins with two primal spirits, twins, yet opposites. One embodies order, truth, and light, Ahura Mazda. The other embodies chaos, destruction, and deceit, Angra Mainyu. And here's the key difference from the Christian devil. Angra Mainyu isn't a rebellious angel who fell. He isn't a creature of God who turned bad. He's co-eternal with the principle of good. From the very beginning, the cosmos is split by this cosmic dualism: light versus darkness, truth versus lies, life versus death. The cosmic war. According to Zoroastrian scriptures, Ahura Mazda created the world as a battlefield. Every river, mountain, and living thing was made to hold off chaos and corruption. Angra Mainyu looked at this creation and said, essentially, I will ruin it. He sent demons of drought to wither crops, plagues to sicken humanity, lies to poison truth itself. And humans, they weren't spectators, they were soldiers. Every moral choice, honesty or deceit, kindness or cruelty, strengthened one side or the other. This wasn't abstract theology. For ancient Persians, life was literally a war zone between cosmic forces, and Angra Mainyu was the ultimate terrorist. Why he outranks the devil. Here's why Angra Mainyu dwarfs the Christian devil in power. Primordial status. Satan arrives late in the biblical story. Angra Mainyu has been there since time itself began. Cosmic scale, he doesn't just tempt individuals, he corrupts the entire material world. Moral stakes. Human free will isn't just about sign or salvation. It decides the fate of the universe itself. And unlike Satan, whose defeat in Christian eschatology comes almost off stage in the book of Revelation, Angra Mainyu's defeat is described in fiery, apocalyptic detail. The endgame. At the end of time, Zoroastrianism says, a savior figure called the Giant will lead a final battle. Angra Mainyu and his demons will be destroyed in a river of molten metal, cleansing creation itself. The righteous will pass through unharmed. The wicked and Angra Mainyu will burn away forever. So while he begins as terrifyingly powerful, his story ends with cosmic justice. Evil, no matter how ancient, is temporary. From Persia to the world. Here's the fascinating part. Scholars believe Jewish thinkers during the Babylonian exile encountered Persian dualism, and this shaped later ideas of Satan, the apocalypse, heaven, and hell in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So every time you see the devil portrayed as God's cosmic enemy, that DNA might trace back to Angra Mainyu, the desert-born spirit of destruction, the mother of monsters, Tiamat. Now we travel west to ancient Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, where another terrifying figure rises from the primordial waters, Tiamat. Chaos before creation. In the Babylonian creation epic Enuma Elish, in the beginning there was only water. The fresh waters of Apsu male, the salt waters of Tiamat female. Together they birthed the first gods. But soon, these divine children grew noisy, rebellious, and restless like teenagers slamming doors in heaven. Apsu wanted to kill them for disturbing his peace. Tiamat initially resisted, playing the role of cosmic mother. But when the younger gods killed Apsu first, Tiamat snapped. The grieving mother became the mother of monsters, the army of chaos. Enraged, Tiamat birthed an army of terrifying creatures: serpent dragons, scorpion men, storm demons. At their head, she placed her new consort, Kingu, handing him the Tablet of Destiny's cosmic authority over the universe. This wasn't just rebellion, it was chaos declaring war on order itself. The battle with Marduk. Enter Marduk, a storm god armed with a net, bow, and the winds themselves. The younger gods made a deal. If Marduk killed Tiamat, he would become king of the gods. In a battle echoing through centuries of myth, Marduk slew Tiamat, split her body in two. Half became the heavens, half became the earth. Creation itself was built from the corpse of chaos. Why she still haunts us. Tiamat fascinates because she's not just a villain. She's a mother figure betrayed, a creator turned destroyer, a reminder that chaos and order are forever linked. Even today, Tiamat appears in novels, video games like Dungeons and Dragons, and modern occultism often as a symbol of primal feminine power or untamed nature. She's bigger than Satan because she isn't moral at all. She's cosmic. She births gods and monsters alike. Patterns across cultures. Scholars notice a recurring pattern in world mythology. Primordial chaos exists first. Younger gods or heroes defeat it. The world is made from its body or tamed energy. Examples: Norse myth, the giant Ymir slain, his body becoming the world. Chinese myth, Pangu, the cosmic giant, whose death births creation. Hebrew Bible, God defeating Leviathan or Rahab, chaos dragons of the sea. Satan tempts. These beings are the raw material of reality itself. When chaos feels close. Why did ancient people imagine chaos this way? Because they lived it. Floods could wipe out whole cities overnight. Droughts turned fertile lands into dust. Plagues killed without warning. To them, chaos wasn't abstract. It was outside the walls every single day. And naming it Tiamat, Angra Mainyu, Leviathan gave it a story, a shape, something humans could fight, even if only in myth. From myth to psychology, modern thinkers like Carl Jung see these myths as reflections of the human mind. Tiamat equals the unconscious, vast and dark, birthing both creativity and destruction. Angra Mainyu equals the human capacity for cruelty, envy and despair. The battles of gods mirror battles inside us. Order versus chaos, reason versus impulse, hope versus fear. So when we talk about demons, maybe we're also talking about ourselves. If you lived in the ancient Near East thousands of years ago, the sea was the edge of the world. Beyond the beaches and river deltas lay endless waters, where storms rose without warning, where ships vanished, where no farmer could plant and no king could rule. And so, it became the perfect home for monsters. Not petty monsters like ogres or trolls, but world-enders, god-fighters. Being so big and wild, they laughed at human notions of good or evil. And among them, none was feared like Leviathan. Leviathan, the twisting serpent. The Bible mentions Leviathan several times. In Job 41, God challenges Job. Can you pull in Leviathan with a fishhook? Will it make an agreement with you and be taken as your slave for life? In Psalms, Leviathan is a multi-headed sea dragon crushed by God's power. In Isaiah 27:1, the prophet speaks of God slaying Leviathan the fleeing serpent, Leviathan the twisting serpent. He will kill the dragon that is in the sea. This is no ordinary animal. Leviathan represents chaos itself, unpredictable, terrifying, uncontrollable. And unlike Satan, who tempts humans one by one, Leviathan threatens the entire cosmic order. The monster versus the creator. What makes Leviathan fascinating is the theological drama. In Babylonian myth, Marduk must fight Tiamat to create the world. In Canaanite myth, Bol fights Yam, the sea god, and Lotan, a sea serpent. But in the Hebrew Bible, Yahweh doesn't struggle. He crushes Leviathan like it's nothing. This is an important shift. Pagan gods fight chaos in epic battles. Israel's God simply rules it. Leviathan might be terrifying, but he isn't equal to God. End Times Feast. Later Jewish tradition adds a wild twist. At the end of days, when evil is defeated, God will kill Leviathan and serve its meat at a banquet for the righteous. Imagine that, the ultimate chaos beast, roasted and shared like victory barbecue. This idea appears in the Talmud and other rabbinic writings. It transforms Leviathan from ultimate terror into ultimate trophy proof that even chaos has an expiration date. Behemoth, the land monster. If Leviathan ruled the seas, Behemoth stomped across the land. Described in Job, a colossal beast with bones like bronze and a tail like a cedar tree, said to eat mountains of grass and shake the earth when it walks. Some scholars think Behemoth was inspired by real animals, like hippos or elephants, but in myth, it becomes far bigger, almost Godzilla-sized. In some traditions, Behemoth and Leviathan are rivals land versus sea, destined to fight each other in the end times before both are slain by God. Rahab, the forgotten sea dragon. Another biblical chaos figure is Rahab, sometimes a poetic name for Egypt, sometimes a literal sea monster. Psalm 89 says God crushed Rahab like a carcass when establishing order over the waters. The book of Job mentions God piercing Rahab with a sword. Scholars link Rahab with older Near Eastern myths of sea serpents defeated by storm gods. So Leviathan, Behemoth, Rahab all are echoes of that same primal story. Order versus chaos, creator versus dragon, light versus deep waters. Why monsters of chaos matter? These creatures weren't just scary bedtime stories. For ancient people, they explained why the world felt so dangerous. Floods. The Tigris and Euphrates could drown entire kingdoms. Droughts. Crops withered. Animals starved. People prayed. Empires. Invading armies seemed like forces of nature, unstoppable as storms. When reality feels monstrous, you imagine monsters behind it. The psychology of Leviathan. Psychologists like Carl Jung saw dragons and sea serpents as symbols of the unconscious mind. The sea equals the unknown, the chaotic, the repressed. The hero or God equals consciousness, order, the self trying to master fear. Killing Leviathan equals confronting what terrifies you. In therapy terms, it's shadow work, facing the parts of yourself you'd rather keep buried. Leviathan in later religion. Christianity eventually equated Leviathan with Satan himself. Medieval writers saw the sea dragon as a symbol of pride and sin. Thomas Aquinas called Leviathan the demon of envy, but this actually shrinks Leviathan. In the Bible, he's cosmic chaos. In the Middle Ages, he's reduced to a moral metaphor. Leviathan in modern culture. Today, Leviathan lives on everywhere. Thomas Hobbes named his famous book on government Leviathan, picturing the state as a giant made of countless citizens. In literature, like Moby Dick, the great white whale inherits Leviathan's mystery and terror. In movies and games, sea monsters from Godzilla to Pacific Rim trace back to these ancient myths. Whenever storytellers need something huge, ancient, and unstoppable, they summon Leviathan's shadow. Real-life moments when Leviathan felt real. History offers times when people believed or have believed such monsters lurked out there. Medieval maps often show dragons or serpents at the edges with the words "Here be monsters." 19th century sailors told tales of krakens dragging ships under. Even today, Loch Ness monster legends echo humanity's old fear. What hides beneath dark waters? Each story whispers the same thing. The unknown is alive, and it has teeth. Why the devil feels smaller now, compared to Leviathan or Tiamat. The devil seems almost personal. He tempts individuals, corrupts souls, rules hell. But these chaos beasts, they threaten cosmic stability itself. They don't bargain or tempt. They just are. That makes them, in some ways, far scarier. By the early 20th century, humanity had mapped the world, split the atom, invented the airplane, The old gods and monsters seemed to fade into folklore. But then came a writer from Providence, Rhode Island, Howard Phillips Lovecraft, and with him came Cthulhu, Azathoth, and a whole pantheon of beings not from heaven or hell, but from the cold, indifferent cosmos. Lovecraft didn't give us demons to be defeated or gods to be worshipped. He gave us nightmares to fit inside human ideas of good or evil. Cthulhu, the sleeping apocalypse, first appearing in the Call of Cthulhu 1928. This creature isn't hiding in hellfire. It sleeps beneath the Pacific Ocean in the sunken city of R'lyeh, a place described as so alien its geometry itself drives people mad. Cthulhu is towering, tentacled, dragon-winged, vast beyond human scale, worshipped by strange cults who whisper he will one day awaken. And when he rises, it's not the end of humans, it's the end of human sanity, because the mere sight of Cthulhu, the mere knowledge of him, unravels the mind. Why he terrifies us. Traditional demons want to corrupt or destroy you because you matter to God, to them, to the cosmic story. Cthulhu doesn't care. This is what scholars call cosmic indifference. The universe is vast. Humans are tiny. There is no special destiny protecting us. Cthulhu doesn't hate you. That would imply he noticed you in the first place. And somehow, that's worse. Azathoth, the blind idiot god. If Cthulhu is a terrifying monster, Azathoth is the ultimate cosmic punchline, called the blind idiot god, the nuclear chaos, the mindless being at the center of existence itself. Lovecraft describes Azathoth as a writhing chaos, surrounded by piping, shrieking demons, because all reality is just its dream. If it ever wakes up, everything ends, not out of rage, not out of malice, just because the dream is stirred. Imagine telling someone the meaning of life is that there isn't one, that we live in the half-conscious daydream of a sleeping idiot god. That's Azathoth, Nyarlathotep, the crawling chaos. Among Lovecraft's creations, Nyarlathotep stands out because he actually talks to people. He takes on human forms, spreads madness and despair, serves as messenger for the outer gods like Azathoth. Where Azathoth is mindless, Nyarlathotep is cunning. He enjoys the game. If Cthulhu represents humanity's smallness, Nyarlathotep represents deception, manipulation, and chaos with a smile. Why Lovecraft's gods feel bigger than Satan. Satan, even at his most powerful, is a character in a story where humans and God matter. Lovecraft's beings, they rip the story itself apart. No morality. They aren't good or evil. They just are. No victory. You can't kill or defeat them. At best, you delay them. No comfort. The universe doesn't care if you pray, fight, or hide. That hopelessness is what made Lovecraft's horror so unique. The fear behind the fiction. Lovecraft wrote in the shadow of World War I, mechanized death on a scale never seen before. New science, relativity, quantum physics, a universe stranger than Newton's clockwork world. The Great Depression, economic chaos revealing human fragility. It felt like the world itself had grown bigger, colder, more alien. Cthulhu was the perfect monster for the 20th century, not a demon from hell, but a reminder that the universe owes us nothing. Occultism and the outer gods. Interestingly, modern occult groups have borrowed Lovecraft's creations, sometimes treating them, if they were real. Rituals invoking Cthulhu or Nyarlathotep appear in fringe magical texts. Chaos magicians use them as symbols of primal, uncontrollable forces. Do these groups believe the beings literally exist? Not always, but as archetypes, as faces of chaos they have power. The psychology of cosmic horror. Psychologists suggest Lovecraft's monsters resonate because they mirror existential dread, the fear life has no meaning, helplessness, technology, war, climate change forces bigger than us, the unconscious mind, full of impulses and fears we can't control. When people dream of tidal waves or giant creatures, Jungians see symbols of the psyche's deep, chaotic layers rising up. Cthulhu isn't just a monster out there. He's the fear inside us, that the universe is too big to understand. Cthulhu in pop culture. Since the 1920s, Cthulhu has become a cultural icon. Tabletop games like Call of Cthulhu, video games like Bloodborne, movies, memes, plush toys. He's even been parodied endlessly. Cthulhu for President bumper stickers. Anyone. But under the humor lies that original unease. We laugh at Cthulhu because we can't control him. Why this matters for our countdown. Here's the key point. The devil tempts individuals, rebels against God, loses in the end. Lovecraft's beings simply exist on scales that make good verses. Evil look childish. In terms of raw, existential power, Azathoth and Cthulhu leave Satan in the dust. When the enemy has no face, picture this. You stand at the edge of a cliff at midnight. Below stretches a blackness, so deep it swallows the wind itself. No monsters roar, no eyes glow. Yet your pulse races like something down there is watching. That feeling, the fear of the void itself, is older than any religion, and many cultures gave it a name. The abyss in Greek myth and Christian mysticism, the outer darkness in Gnostic writings, the void in Norse and Hindu cosmology. These weren't places like hell with demons and pitchforks. They were states of existence, and they terrified people because they hinted at nothingness, chaos in the beginning. In Greek mythology, before the gods or titans, there was chaos, not mess as we mean today, but a yawning gap, a cosmic emptiness. From chaos came the first gods, like Nyx, night and gay earth. In Norse myth, there was Ginnungop, the void between fire and ice, where creation sparked when opposites collided. Even the Bible begins with, the earth was formless and void, and darkness was over the surface of the deep. Before order came chaos, before life came nothing. The outer darkness, Gnostic and Christian thought. In early Christian texts, like the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus sometimes speaks of sinners cast into the outer darkness, where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. But Gnostic writers took this further. They saw the material world itself as a kind of darkness. The true divine realm was beyond this world, beyond matter, beyond even the stars. So the outer darkness wasn't hellfire. It was separation from all light, all meaning, all God. And for mystics, that was worse than any demon. The abyss in the human mind. Carl Jung, the psychologist, once wrote, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." For Jung, myths about darkness and chaos weren't just about the cosmos. They were about the unconscious mind, the parts of ourselves we deny, repress, or fear. Anger we won't admit, grief we won't face, desires we think are shameful. He called this the shadow, and confronting it, he said, was essential for growth. The dark night of the soul. In Christian mysticism, saints sometimes described a terrifying stage of spiritual life called the dark night of the soul. No visions, no comfort from prayer, just silence, emptiness, abandonment. It wasn't punishment. It was transformation, stripping away ego and illusions, so something deeper could awaken, like descending into the abyss before finding light again. Modern demons, anxiety, addiction, despair. Today, people might not speak of Leviathan or Cthulhu, but the feeling of the abyss shows up everywhere. Anxiety attacks, where the mind spirals into panic. Depression described as a black dog or empty hole. Addiction as a monster with endless hunger. Listen to people describe these experiences. It felt like drowning, like falling into a pit, like being eaten alive from the inside. The language is ancient. The demons are modern. When people personify darkness, cultures often turned abstract fears into beings. Lilith in Jewish myth embodied sexual chaos and infant mortality. Mara in Buddhism personified temptation and spiritual death. Kali in Hinduism, fierce and terrifying, also represented destruction and rebirth. We give fear a face, because then we can talk to it, fight it, maybe even bargain with it. Lessons from the abyss. Here's the paradox. Every myth where someone faces the void ends the same way. The hero descends into darkness, encounters death, chaos, or temptation, returns with wisdom, power, or renewal. Think of Jesus descending into death before resurrection, Odin hanging on the world tree to gain knowledge of runes, Inanna in Sumerian myth, stripped of everything as she enters the underworld, rising transformed. The darkness kills, but also teaches. Why this belongs in our countdown. The devil tempts you to sin. Leviathan threatens the world with chaos. Cthulhu shatters sanity. But the abyss, the outer darkness, the void, they confront you with meaninglessness itself. And many philosophers argue that's the deepest fear humans have. Not pain, not death, but the possibility that none of it means anything. That's why these faceless demons earn a place among the most powerful forces in myth and imagination. When myths step off the page, it's one thing to read about Cthulhu, Leviathan, or Angra Mainyu in ancient texts and horror novels. It's another to feel, even for a moment, like they're real. History gives us moments when entire societies believed the darkness had slipped its leash. Medieval villagers watching the Black Death kill half their town. Ancient sailors seeing storms swallow ships without warning. World War I soldiers calling the machine gun and poison gas the monsters of modern war. When chaos rises, humans reach for ancient language, demons, dragons, devils, because it's easier to face a monster than to admit the universe itself might be indifferent. Personal stories of the abyss. Not all battles with darkness are cosmic. Some are painfully personal. A soldier returns from war haunted by memories. He dreams of fire giants burning the world. A woman fighting depression calls it the Leviathan, a thing with scales and teeth pulling her under. An addict in recovery says the first step was naming the demon inside him before he could fight it. Psychologists notice this pattern everywhere. People personify suffering because stories help us survive what statistics and science can't. A monster can be fought. An illness feels emptier. Why these myths still matter? Here's the fascinating thing. The myths we've explored, Ahriman, Tiamat, Leviathan, Cthulhu, the abyss survive because they speak to universal human experiences. Chaos in nature, floods, storms, earthquakes. Chaos in society, wars, plagues, political collapse. Chaos inside us, fear, rage, grief, addiction. Whether or not you believe in literal demons, the stories give shape to the shapeless. And once fear has a face, we can talk about it, resist it, even laugh at it. Lessons from the darkness. Across all cultures, one lesson repeats. The hero descends into darkness, but the darkness doesn't win. In Zoroastrianism, Angra Mainyu is powerful, but good triumphs when humans choose truth. In Babylonian myth, Tiamat is slain, but her death creates the world. In Norse myth, the fire giant Surtur burns everything, but from the ashes, new life grows. In Christianity, Jesus descends into death itself and returns with resurrection. Even Lovecraft, the king of cosmic horror, admitted that humans keep fighting even when the universe doesn't care because resistance itself gives meaning. 3 modern takeaways. Name your demons. Whether it's anxiety, grief, or fear of the unknown, giving it a face, Leviathan, Cthulhu, or your own name for it helps you confront it. Chaos isn't always the enemy. Many myths show destruction making way for renewal. Forest fires clear ground for new growth. Old beliefs burn so better ones can rise. Stories keep us human. Myths don't just explain the world, they help us survive it. They remind us others have walked through darkness before and found light again. The countdown ends. We began with a bold claim. 10 demons more powerful than the devil himself. And we found cosmic warlords like Angra Mainyu, monster mothers like Tiamat, sea dragons like Leviathan, indifferent gods like Cthulhu and Azathoth, faceless forces like the abyss and outer darkness, each more terrifying than the devil because they don't just want your soul. They threaten the world itself or even reality itself. Yet across all myths, one truth shines. Humans keep telling these stories because we refuse to give chaos the final word, the invitation to the audience. So now it's your turn. Which of these beings chilled you the most? Which myth felt less like fantasy and more like truth? Comment below. Share your story. Because the conversation about darkness, personal, cosmic, or mythic is older than civilization itself, and every time we tell it, We push the shadows back a little further,